Hi, I'm Larry Puckett. Welcome to the UK Model Railways channel. This is the first of the new videos that I'm going to be uploading here on a regular basis. I will be doing a new video at least every other week, and I will be adding older content from my other channel that I'm going to migrate over also every other week. But today we're going to take a look at how you go about adding KD couplers to UK wagons, vans, and coaches. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, let's get started with replacing your tension lock couplers that come with most of the UK model railway cars and locomotives with KD couplers. And for that, I've got a whole lot of stuff set up here on the workbench. Let's zoom down on that and take a look, and then I'll show you how to go about converting one car using a standard KD number 5 coupler that is widely used in the United States and can be adapted quite easily to UK cars that do not have the NEM coupling boxes on them. First, let's take a look at the various components that are available. Now, KD makes a number of different lengths of couplers. Now, they're all the same design, same coupler head. They just have a longer shank. So you can see here, the number 17 coupler has a 7.11 millimeter long shank. The number 18 has an 8.63 millimeter long shank. The number 19 has a 10.67 millimeter shank, and there's a number 20, but I've never used any of those. They are very long. Something else that can be useful in this process here, obviously, are the draft gear boxes, and those are available separately as a number 232 from KD. And also, something I have found useful are these number 211 draft gearbox shims. And all these are is a flat piece of plastic that can fit between the draft gearbox or the coupler box and the bottom of your car to adjust the height. Okay, so let me put that in here. Now let's get these out of the way. Now let me point out that I keep a package of each of these around because you never know what's going to come your way. Now while I have these out, let me tell you that the number 18 coupler from KD is pretty much the standard for most UK passenger cars, freight cars, and other rolling stock. It's their medium length shank, and it'll work for a lot of stuff. I use a lot of the number 18s and just a few of the 17s and 19s. So be aware of that. I do keep a selection on hand just so that I can test and find out what the best fit is going to be, though. I'm going to hold these in my hand because it's easier to show them to you that way. Okay, so if you look at that, you can see that this is the 17, 18, and 19. So you've got progressively longer shanks here. So that gives you more distance between your cars once they're installed in the NEM pockets. It's easier for you to see this from the bottom. Once the two cars are coupled together, you want to have enough space between the buffers so that when you go around curves, they're not going to catch on one another. And that means you can't have them prototypically right up against one another. And on some cars, like this coach here, I've used one of the longer number 19 couplers to give me even more distance, because this one was catching on another coach and derailing when it went around curves. However, on most railways, if you're dealing with modules and it's a straight run of track, that's not really a problem. You can get them fairly close together without issue. That's why it's great to have the different sizes, the 17, 18, 19, and 20, because you can use different lengths of shanks on the couplers in order to get the right spacing on your buffers. So be aware of that. And if you run into problems with your buffers either catching on one another and interlocking and derailing, or just getting pushed up against one another and derailing when they go around curves, then you need to use a slightly longer shank coupler. Okay, so let's take a look at the situation that we have to start with. Now this is the standard tension lock coupler that comes on most of the UK rolling stock. It's very simple to take this off. Let me get it here. And you just put a pair of tweezers on these little wings that come out the back of the neem coupler box. Give it a push, and that's all there is to it. That comes out. And then you can simply take your KD coupler. This is a KD number 18. Squeeze the little legs together, push them into the neem coupler box, push it in until you hear the click, and that's it. And that's all there is to it. It's a very quick and easy process to convert them to a KD coupler. Of course, that probably doesn't look a lot like anything prototypical from the era that these cars were operating in. However, it is a lot more prototypical than these tension lock couplers. It gives you a lot better control over how closely your cars couple because these come in a variety of sizes. Plus, you can use them with other cars to do prototype uncoupling. So I have one of these cars here, the Hornby horse car, and you can see we can put these two cars on a test track like this, and they go together. And then this is what's called a pick, coupler pick. All this is a bamboo barbecue skewer. So you can put your shrimp on here and put them on the barbecue and cook away. But what I've done here, I just cut it shorter. And this is a piece of black heat shrink tubing on here. Makes it easier to hold it and grip it than bare. And then you've got the sharp end that's provided. You can also, with the other piece, you can sharpen these using an X-Acto knife or any other knife and some sandpaper to get it to a nice point. And the way that these work is you can take the pick, slide it down in here between the two couplers, and they'll pop right apart. So that's a quick way to do your uncoupling. Now, of course, you could also place a magnet underneath of the rails, and they will automatically separate. I showed in another video how to place magnets under each rail, not just overall into the rail. And that will allow these to uncouple properly without you even touching them. And I'll put a link to that video above me here so that you can go back and see how to go about installing those magnets under the rails so that you can get magnetic uncoupling as these are designed to do. Okay, what I want to show you today is how you can go about converting one of these older cars that have the tension lock couplers mounted onto the bottom of them and screwed on. And what we're going to do is install KD number 5 couplers with their draft gear boxes. And I'll take you through all the steps on how you can remove the existing old tension lock couplers and then install the new KD draft gear boxes and KD number 5s so that they'll operate properly. Okay, so this is the KD coupler number 5. Now, KD couplers are available in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. This one is their standard. Most rolling stock made in the US is sized for the KD number 5 coupler. Also, the coupler spring that comes with that, it fits on the shank like that. And that centers the coupler in the coupling box. And then finally, the coupling box itself right here that the coupler sits in and a lid for it. Okay, so you want to set your coupler lid or coupler box lid down with the extension facing up. Then the centering spring goes in over top of that, followed by your coupler. Sits right in here. And then the coupler box itself goes on over the assembly. So it looks like that. And that centering spring in there will mean that the coupler will always return to a center position, like so. Now, another thing I like to do is take a little bit of liquid cement and run it around the outside of the lid, and that seals it together. However, another thing that I recommend that you do before you put it together is take the coupler and some sandpaper. This is a small piece of sanding material, foam. And just run this over your coupler shank before putting it together. And that just takes off any burrs and rough spots and means it's going to operate very smoothly once you put it together. So that's something you should always do. Okay, now let's go ahead with getting ready to pull this apart. Okay, the first thing we want to do is remove the screw that is on the bottom of the tension lock coupler mount here. Like so. And then that all comes apart. So we're left with these 3 projections at each end. Now what I typically will do is I just take a pair of cutters and snip these off. Like that. We'll do both ends here. Okay, so that got that cleaned up pretty quickly. And now we just need to take this is a number 17 X-Acto blade here. So those are readily available at hobby shops. And being careful not to jab yourself, remove that remaining nib there. And we're going to do this one as well, but first I'm going to work on the other side. I'm going to put this down so I don't jab myself, and then just push down on the, and then cut that off. Because you want a nice, smooth, flush mounting in here. There. Now the one that's most important is this one here in the center. You want to get that out of there. One thing you can do is, after you've cut off the other 2, you can come back and clean this up just a little bit using your cutters. But in the end, you're going to end up using your knife blade quite a bit. Be very careful when you're working with any of these. I still have a numb spot right here on my thumb from where I jabbed myself back about 30 years ago trying to do this on a car. Okay, I'm going to keep removing this here to get that smoothed down. Okay, that's pretty smooth. Let me get a file and take care of the remainder. Okay, this is an emery board for filing your fingernails that I got from my wife. And then you just smooth that down, get it nice and smooth, so that when you mount your coupler box, it's going to sit flush. Do that. I think I've got just a little bit more of a ridge right here. Yep. There we go. Okay, that looks like it's pretty darn flush there. And we'll get it smoothed out. There. If you've been paying attention, you see that we already have a screw hole right here on the bottom that can be used for mounting your KD coupler box, as I've done in this other car. Now, another thing that I like to do, if you look right here very close on the end of the coupler box lid, there's a little ridge here. It's a good idea to go ahead and trim that off because, you know, it just doesn't look right. And it's very simple to do that. You just take your knife with the wedge shape down and cut that off. Like so. And then I'll just give it a light sanding so that it's nice and smooth, because that's going to stick out from the front of the car, and you'll see that. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to take this screw that I removed from the car tension lock, put it right back in here, and we'll give it a test fit. Okay, so they got the coupler installed. Let's check it with the height gauge. The trip pin is down a bit too low, but the height is perfect. Now, another thing that KD makes is this trip pin adjustment pliers. This part is ridged in different thicknesses or diameters, so it can be used with different sizes or scales of couplers. So I'm going to use the middle one for this. You just put the coupler trip pin over the rounded part and pinch it a little bit. And that's going to bend it and straighten it out a bit. So let's test it now. Goes together perfectly. So, and then for uncoupling, I can just take this, slide it in, give it a twist, and it comes apart. Very simple. That's how you do uncoupling without a magnet. And at this point, we can bring the two cars together, and they couple up. Fairly nice coupling distance. So that's how quick and easy it is to install a KD coupler in place of your tension lock couplers on older rolling stock that doesn't have the NEM coupler box. Now, if you do not like the fact that the coupler draft gearbox sticks out like this, you can drill a hole further back and mount your coupler box further back, but you're going to need to use a longer shank KD coupler. And if you go to the KD company website, they do have an online catalog that you can download a copy of, a PDF, and it lists all of the dimensions of all their couplers. So it'll give you a good idea of all of the different shank lengths that you can get, and it will allow you to pick the length of coupler that you want to use. So if you move the coupler box back, you'll need to get a longer shank coupler to go with it. But that's how easy it is. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. No matter whether you're going to be adding couplers to your coaches or to your freight wagons and brake vans, things of that nature, it's a simple procedure if they have the NEM coupler pockets on them. But even for older rolling stock, it really isn't that difficult, as I showed you, to add a number 5 KD coupler or one of the other KD couplers available to your rolling stock using the coupler boxes that KD also makes. So give that a try with your rolling stock. And remember, if you don't want to use magnetic uncoupling, you can just cut these trip pins off and use a coupler pick in order to do your uncoupling when you're doing your shunting. So give that a try, take a look at the KD system, and have a great week. And I'll see you here again next week with another video from UK Model Railways. Bye now.